toy that I absolutely loved. It was this karaoke machine, and it had a mic stand, and there were 2 pedals at the bottom. And if I hit the left pedal, there was this really loud cheering noise. And if I hit the right pedal, it was a huge eruption of laughter. And every single night after I would take a bath, I would go into the living room, and my parents would be on the couch, and my brother and sister would be there. And I would have on this huge, oversized t-shirt that was long enough to be a dress. And I would perform in front of my parents. And here I am, in all of my glory, sitting with my brother performing. And I love to tell jokes, and I love to tell stories. And I'm super, super confident that my jokes weren't that funny. And I'm also super confident that my stories weren't that compelling. But the thing that I loved about it, that I was bringing joy and humor to the living room. I was making my house come alive. And this is the first memory I have of me becoming me. In fact, I loved this entertainment so much and watching people bring joy to each other in the living room setting that I begged my parents to get tickets to an event so I could watch other performers. So on my 7th birthday, my dream came true. My mom got me tickets to see my idol live on stage, Barry Manilow. Now, I realize this is not the typical adolescent figure that people get excited about. But for me, Barry Manilow, there was just something about him. I don't know if it was the Copacabana on cassette or what it was, but I was truly a Barry Manilow fan. In fact, I wrote him a letter. Let me translate it for you. Dear Barry Manilow, I went to the last concert in Champaign. My mom even got me a t-shirt. You or my fan. I'm 7 years old and my name is Genta. After this concert, you better believe that my new favorite shirt to wear to bed, and I swear to goodness, there's something to be said about the fact that this is what I was wearing when I was 7, but this Barry Manilow shirt became my new prized possession. And when I would wear it in the living room to perform, I knew that I wanted to become like him. I knew that I wanted to perform in some way in my career. The problem was I couldn't sing, and I definitely couldn't move around a stage like Barry Manilow, so I actually became the next best thing, a teacher. And for the past 10 years, I have been performing in my classroom. I have learned that you can entertain and use humor with students to actually teach something meaningful. It was cool because my mom made a career out of loving people. She taught me how to build relationships with people in order to create meaningful content. And I wanted to do that in my classroom. Now, I'm not the typical teacher that you might see on television. I like to get my students' attention in really big, bold ways. Because I think that's how you get their attention and create meaningful moments. But I think sometimes on television and in the movies and in books, we get a bad rap. Teachers aren't just giving tests, treats, and timeouts. Some of the most meaningful things that teachers can give is the opportunity to say yes. That's the most meaningful thing that we can give. In fact, one of the greatest things that I have ever given a student is not a test or a treat or a timeout. It was a really, really interesting opportunity to give a kid a toaster. Let me give you some background on this. It was around Thanksgiving time on my very first year teaching, and I was building relationships with students, and they were sitting around in a circle. And I asked kids a very simple question. What are you most thankful for this year? And you heard all kinds of things like, my aunt's green bean casserole, or I'm excited and thankful to spend time with my cousins. And then I got to one young lady who was full of hardship, and her life was full of havoc, and she was homeless at the time. She had been jumping around from hotel to hotel, trying to find warmth and comfort and safety. So she struggled to answer this question. So after class, I pulled her aside and I told her, thank you for participating and just listening. I know that was really hard. And I told her, I want to do something for you to make you thankful for this upcoming holiday. And she asked a very important question that I will never forget. She said, Miss Genta, if I ask for something, do you promise you will say yes? And that made me nervous, but I promised her that I would do everything in my power to say yes. And she said, can you get me a toaster? So I said yes, and then I figured out the rest. And on Thanksgiving morning, I went to her hotel room, and I packed myself in that room with her and the 7 other people living in that room. And I had the most amazing Thanksgiving experience that I have ever had, all because I said yes to a toaster. And this was this really cool opportunity for me to get to know myself as a teacher, but also for me to get to know the important people around me at the time, my students. And I discovered that yes created quite the little ripple effect in my life. Because not 2 years later, the principal was freaking out because we needed safe, fun, engaging opportunities for students to participate on in the weekends. And the principal came to me and said, we need to have school dances, but I can't find a school DJ who is engaging and also school appropriate. I thought, well, that's true. Interestingly, a teacher at that school was getting married at that time, and she was having a hard time finding a DJ who would fit her budget. And she came to me in distress, and she said, Monica, do you know anybody who can DJ my wedding? I said, yes. She said, who? I said, me. And she said, I had no idea you were a DJ. And I said, I'm not, but I'm going to figure it out. So I said yes to being her wedding DJ. And I was a poor young teacher at the time. I had no idea what I was doing, and I couldn't afford DJ equipment. But I said yes, and I made the decision to figure out the rest. And I watched YouTube tutorial videos, and I learned from the people at the music shop, and I bought a bunch of gear. And you better believe I DJ'd her wedding. And for the past 8 years, I have DJ'd every single school dance that my school has hosted. And I get out there and I fist pump with those kids, and it's a sweaty, hot mess. And kids will come up to me after, and they'll always say, Miss G, how do you become a DJ? And I say, guys, there's 3 things that you need to be a DJ. You need a laptop, you need loud music, and you need to have a lot of yeses in your life. At the most recent school dance, at the end, I was taking down all of my gear and the lights, and here's kind of what the setup looks like. And a student came up to me and said, Miss G, I've been thinking a lot about this. I think I'm going to say yes to being a DJ. I think that's going to be my career. I said, okay, I like it, but I want to know why. Why is this your career? And he said, because I'm possessed with music. I did not have the heart to tell him that he is confusing his words, that he means he is obsessed with music. That's what he meant. So I gave him a high five, and I told him that I would be there to help when he was ready to make that leap to saying yes to becoming a DJ. So here I was as a performer in my living room, becoming a teacher, transforming into this school DJ. And about 7 years into my career, I was having a really, really hard time. And I started to question my yeses up to that point. Was I actually in the correct career? And so I went to some of my friends who've been in the profession for a long time, and they said, Monica, what you need is great professional development. You should go to a conference to get you excited about education again. So I got really excited and I signed up for this 3-day conference. I traveled up to Springfield. It was an overnight event. I felt really edgy. I was spending the school's money and eating nice steak and learning about education. This was a dream come true until I sat in my first session. It was absolutely terrible. This was not the opportunity that I thought it was going to be, and I sat for 3 days and I didn't get excited about education. In fact, I walked to my car at the end of the event extremely frustrated. But I decided to say yes to one more event. I sat in that parking lot and I researched the next education conference within the next few months. And I found one, a small little event up in Chicago. And I registered for it and I took it a step further. And I said yes to actually presenting at the conference. I said yes to sharing with other teachers, thinking that that would instill some passion in my profession. So when I got the confirmation email that said that I was going to present, I was excited. A couple months later, I packed my bags, headed up to Chicago to this small event that was actually a national conference of only 10,000 teachers present. I had no idea what I had just said yes to. But I thought, I said yes, and I'm about to figure out the rest. So I got in front of people, and a couple hundred teachers showed up for my workshop. And at the end of it, I wasn't sure how it went, until one woman said, "Honey, that was the best professional development of my life." And I looked at her and I said, "Honey, that was the first professional development of my life." And she said, "Your words are going to change my life." And what that woman doesn't realize is her words changed mine. Because after that, it created more opportunities to say yes. I decided that in order to create a new passion for my profession, this is something that I could do. Get teachers excited about being in the classroom again. Because this had changed. Education had changed. Teachers had changed. Kids had changed. But the problem was that this required skills that I didn't think that I had. I told you that my mom had created a career out of loving people. My dad had created a career in car sales. And I thought, well, wait a second. If I did with lasers and music what he did with sabers and minivans, maybe I could take my educational background and my entrepreneurial background in becoming a DJ, and I could actually push those two together. We don't live in a world anymore where you can't combine things and create the perfect profession for you. If you know yourself and you know the people around you, you can create something like that. So for the past 2 years, I have traveled all over the United States, and I've got to hit really cool stages like this at TED events. And I got to keynote events, and I got to work with thousands of teachers all across the United States to help them figure out what their yes is in their career. And for so many people, it's yes to the classroom. And for other people, I'm sharing tips and tricks to make sure that they are being passionate about their career. But it has been one big, amazing journey. But what I learned at events like this is that 85% of people in this world don't love the work that they do every single day. To me, that is way too big of a number. That 85% of people walk away from their job saying, "I don't love that." So what I have found is that people have to say yes, then they figure out the rest, and that is how you become your best. But it has to start with this, the yes. Knowing yourself and knowing the people around you, and then creating this amazing quest. So when people ask me, what do you do for a living? I could tell them that I'm a classroom teacher, who happens to actually use a karaoke machine in my classroom. Or I could tell them that I DJ school events and every once in a while I'll throw a really epic wedding. Or I could tell them that I'm a keynote speaker that gets to travel around the country and make an impact on other people's careers. But I don't tell them any of that. When somebody comes up to me and asks what I do for a living, I tell them the exact thing that I would challenge you to tell somebody the next time they ask you. What do you do for a living? You say yes, and then you bring awesome into the world. Thank you.